we'll get straight on to our next community talk on quietly powerful leadership for the ones who don't shout. Welcome to the stage, Limor Bergman.
Hi, everyone. So I don't know if this is a disappointment or a relief, but I'm not going to talk about AI. I'm actually going to talk about people stuff, share some stories, and I hope I'm going to keep you awake until the next break. So I wanted to ask you, did any of you ever get a feedback that you need to speak up more? Any of you? Okay, I'm not the only one, I guess. So first of all, nice to meet you all. My name is Limor Bergman Gross. I used to be an engineer and run engineering organizations. I'm now a coach, and I'm very shy and introverted. In fact, just standing here today is quite challenging for me, but I do that because I want to share my stories with those of you who feel like maybe leadership is not for you. And you know, this picture here is just a typical day in my life. I work from home since 2016, and I coach, and I sit in my home office, and that's where I feel the most comfortable. And don't tell anyone, but usually I wear pajama pants. So they don't see it on Zoom, but that's kind of where I feel the most comfortable. And you know, for years, I thought that maybe I'm not cut out for leadership because I'm very shy and introverted. And I thought that a leader should be, you know, confident, extroverted, kind of charismatic person that gets into the room and everyone kind of look at them and say, hey, this is the leader. And I'm kind of shy. And I thought, well, maybe I'm not cut out for leadership. And also I got some feedback from some managers. Maybe they were not the best managers, but they told me, you know, you need to speak up more. You need to be more assertive. You need to be louder. So people will notice you. And you know what? I tried to do that, and it didn't really work. And I'll share a quick story from my career. So I'm actually here in Berlin with my two daughters. My oldest is a 21-year-old. And after she was born, I was traveling quite a bit from work. I was traveling to California and to Tokyo, every month to a different location. It was quite a toll as a young mom, but on top of that, it was also an emotional toll because I was working with a Japanese client, and all the people around me, most of them were men and also much more senior than I am, older in age and older in experience, and I felt very uncomfortable in general. On top of that, you know, I was very quiet. So I said, okay, how do I stand out in a meeting? Oh, my manager told me I need to speak up. So I try to speak up. I try to be kind of someone I'm not. I wear some kind of mask. And it wasn't really doing any good to anyone because I wasn't authentic. I wasn't me. And it showed. And I don't think I gained the trust of my American colleagues, and I don't think I gained the trust from the Japanese client because, you know, it wasn't authentic. It wasn't really me. And eventually, you know, trying to wear this mask, to play a role, to be someone I'm not, led me to burnout because it was very exhausting. It was very emotional toll on me to play a role, which eventually led to burnout. I was already traveling a lot as a young mom, so it was already hard as it is. And also, which maybe is the worst thing that happened, it led to imposter syndrome. I felt very uncomfortable in myself. I said, well, I'm really bad. I'm not doing a good job. So that definitely was not sustainable. And another thing that I also learned the hard way is that eventually, you know, being inauthentic is not good, but also being quiet is not good because I worked hard, and I assume that many of you here, you know, at least those who are quiet like me, are talented, are hardworking. You're intelligent people. But you know that it's not enough, especially if you want to be noticed, especially if you want to be promoted, whether it's for a CTO or for a different role. So what does work? You know, if playing a role, being someone you're not, doesn't work, but also being quiet doesn't work. What does work? And that's what I want to share with you today. I want to share with you several things that, looking backward at my 20 plus years in engineering, kind of things I learned that worked for me, and I hope they're going to help those of you who are like me, who are quiet, that maybe doesn't like to speak up a lot. So hopefully that will help you. So basically what happened was that I stopped playing. I stopped wearing a mask, and I figured I had to be me. I had to be authentic. And, I learned that I actually have a lot of strength. One of my managers once told me, Limor, you really know to hire the right people. And I always look for people who are much smarter than me. And he told me, you know how to hire the right managers. I also got along with a lot of people. You know how it is in engineering, right? You have different kind of personalities. And I figured, I can get along actually with a lot of people. A lot of them are very different than me. So I kind of honed into my strength and led as my authentic self. And those are kind of 3 principles that I wanted to share with you today that I think really helps those of you who are quiet, that wants to lead as a quiet leader, as someone who's maybe doesn't talk much, who is more introverted and quiet. And those 3 things are clarity, curiosity, and calm confidence. And I'll explain each one of them. So what it means clarity, what it means being clear. We all live in a world that uncertainty is kind of a given. I don't know how many of you remember the waterfall model, right? I mean, many years ago, when I was just starting out, we were planning ahead, sometimes, a year in advance, we were planning releases. And nowadays, then we move to agile. But, things are changing so rapidly, and it's so hard to keep up with technology. And uncertainty is just part of what we do on a daily basis. Everything is uncertain. So clarity, if you bring clarity, people are going to look up to you as a leader. And you don't have to bring clarity in a very loud way. You just need to kind of articulate, what do you think your team should be doing? What do you think are the right things to do right now based on the information you know? And the way I did it, the way I created clarity, was basically, in one-on-one meetings, in sometimes writing documents, I found the ways that worked for me to bring clarity to my team, to bring clarity to the organization in times of uncertainty. I made a lot of assumptions, and I said, hey, I don't have all the answers, I don't know it all, but based on what I know, and based on the assumption that we make, those are the things that we should be doing. And when you do bring clarity to your teams, people will look up to you and see you as a leader. The next thing is curiosity. And 5.5 years ago, I used to live in the US for 9 years, and I got back to Israel, where I live right now. And when we moved back, I somehow decided that it's also a good reason to leave corporate and start something new. And I decided to become a coach because my passion is really supporting tech leaders, especially women. And that's where I want my impact to kind of show, to help women leaders. And I learned in coaching, I remember that they told us in the coaching training that I did, as a coach, you should speak about 20% of the time and listen 80% of the time. And you know what? I do think this is also very, very true for leaders. I believe that as leaders, we need to be more curious. We need to ask questions. And this is one of the things that I learned all the time as a coach. I learned how to be curious, how to ask questions. And I want to share with you a short story from my career. So, as I said, I moved to the US. I moved to the US with 4 very young children. I was back then a relatively inexperienced engineering manager, relatively at the beginning of my career. And I left everything I knew, and I looked for a job as an engineering manager in the US. And I remember I had a first job, and there was a team that was there for a while, and they had an architect. The team had an architect. He was older than me and very experienced and very well respected, both by the team and also within the company. And he was very proud of, obviously, the product that I was leading and the architecture. He made a lot of the architecture decisions there. And within a few months, I started working. I started kind of, being curious. I talked with product. I wanted to see, what's going on. I looked at incidents, and we had several issues, and it was related to scale. So the product was not scaling very well. And obviously, I wasn't the architect and wasn't trying to be, but because I was curious and because I started digging, I had a suspicion that, the architecture was not serving us very well, and more specifically, the database choice was not the best choice and was not scalable. But then I thought, okay, I'm an expert, I'm a new manager, I still haven't gained all the respect and credibility here, and I have this architect, very well respected, and now how do I go and tell him, hey, dude, listen, I think you made a mistake. I think what you actually built is not serving us right now. And instead of telling him, hey, I think this is wrong and I think we should consider doing something else, I decided to have kind of a brainstorming discussion with him. And I asked him a lot of questions. I asked him, hey, let's look at what's going on with the product. How do you think it's scalable? How do you think in the future, if we have more load, how it's going to serve us? Let's look at the incidents. We kind of asked him some questions. The questions were actually genuine, right? I wasn't trying to fake it, but I didn't tell him what I thought. I just asked a question, which I don't know if any of you felt it. This is hard, right? If you, especially as an engineer, if you think you know the answer, it's really difficult to keep it to yourself and not tell someone, hey, this is what we should do. Anyway, I just asked questions. And magically, this architect said, I got it. The database is not a good choice. We have to replace it. And I think within a day, he came back with, alternatives. And long story short, we replaced the database. But the thing is, if I told him, what he should be doing, or that I thought that he made a mistake, I don't know if he would take it very well. But because I led with questions, eventually he came up with the answers himself, and he was bought into that change. So questions, being curious, is really powerful, and I recommend you all to use it more. And the next one is calm confidence. And what does it even mean? And I'll give you another story from my personal life. So I have a daughter, I said, she's 21, and my son, he's 18. And he is a relatively new driver. He started driving about, maybe a year and a half ago. He drives okay. He thinks he's the best driver in the planet, okay? So he obviously drives very confidently, and he scratched the car, I think, 3 times already. So every time it happens, it's like, I have this urge to freak out and say, oh my God, what have you done? And be really angry. And this is usually what my husband does, so I leave this job to him. But instead, the last time it happened, it was actually pretty recent. He kind of went to the parking lot. I don't know what he did. He scratched the car and also scratched some other woman's car. So we had to fix not just our car, but someone else. And he calls me. He's hysteric. And I just breathe and say, okay, breathe. Don't respond. And I said, you know what? It's okay. I listened to him, ask tell me what happened. And then eventually, I was very calm, which calmed him down. And also, ask him, hey, what have you learned from that, from that experience? I said, yeah, Mom, I learned I need to be more careful. I need to be, I don't know if he actually learned that, but hopefully he did. But I guess my message here, that actually that translates very well to leadership. And I guess that comes naturally to me. I'm relatively calm in times on crisis. And, when you are calm, when something happens, people look up to you and they see how you react. They see how you react, especially when things doesn't work very well. They will see you as a leader if you don't say much. And I was an on-call manager. I remember that at my last role, I was director of engineering, and we had this rotation of on-call managers. No one wanted that, but we had to. And you're getting a call in the middle of the night, and I was in charge, basically. It was the weekend, I'm in charge, and I have to make decisions. It's very stressful, but usually I tried as much as possible to stay calm, to get people on the call, to figure out, okay, do I need to wake up another team, and stay really calm. And calm is very, very powerful in leadership, especially in times of crisis. And I have two more things that I wanted to share with you that hopefully are going to help you. As I said, right, as a coach, I try to talk around 20% of the time and listen 80%. And I think when you stay curious and you talk less and listen more, when you do talk, people will listen to you. And I share another story from my career. I was traveling to Napa Valley for a leadership offsite. So it was like the company, all the directors, VPs, and the C-suite. We were spending 3 days in Napa Valley. To be honest, I was not super excited. Like, I felt nervous, with all those executives. I didn't feel the most comfortable. But I said, okay, at least we are going to Napa Valley. What can be wrong? It's beautiful. We drink wine. So at least, I felt some kind of encouragement that there will be some fun part over there. And I tried, really during those 3 days to absorb, other than drinking, obviously, a lot of wine, I tried as much as possible to kind of listen to people, to talk with maybe some of the executives that I didn't have a lot of chance to talk to on a daily basis. Asked them a lot of questions, what they cared about, what kept them up at night, trying to gather information. And also during the meetings themselves, I was mostly quiet, but listening very carefully. And I won't forget that I actually, on one of the kind of meetings, I actually had something that I really wanted to share. And I spoke up. I said something. I don't even remember what it was. But I won't forget how people reacted. They looked at me, this woman sitting there, most of the people were men, and I was relatively quiet most of the times, and I say, who is this, where did you come from? Like, you sit here, you say nothing, and all of a sudden you speak up. So actually people listened to me. They said, okay, if she's speaking, probably she has something important to say. And not only that they listened to me, also, I remember that after that meeting, one of the C-suite executives reached out to me and said, you know what, Limor, I really like what you said, and I want to hear you more. I want to hear you more of your ideas. And why don't you come and meet with me next time you're, visiting the headquarters? And so I did. I actually met with him several times. And the message for me to you on that part is that you actually don't have to talk a lot in order to be perceived as a leader. In fact, based on my experience, it worked the other way around. If you're a really thoughtful listener, and you talk when you have something very important to share, you talk when you actually have something, interesting and important to share, people will actually listen to you more than if you try to talk all the time just for the sense of, making yourself heard. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you is also interesting, especially for those of you who are engineers in heart, like I am. So I don't know how many of you, that's a question for you. How many of you tried to have some kind of technical discussion or influence someone based on data and failed? Did any of you experience that? How frustrating that may be. This is super, super frustrating, and it happened to me more than once. I had all the data, all the logic. Every intelligent person will get it. But I wasn't able to get the message across because it wasn't always about the data. It's about, eventually we are all people. Yes, we have machines, we have AI, but eventually we are working with people. And people care about how you make them feel. And how do you make people feel? You want to make them feel like you hear them out, like you actually get them, you're getting their challenges, And then you work things out together, and then you can use the data and logic. But people first need to feel like you actually care about them. And I remember that I had one of the crises in my leadership, all the roles I had a crisis, like I had an engineering manager leaving, and I had a big morale issues, and we're not meeting deadlines. And I had to talk with the VP of product and tell him, hey, dude, we're not meeting the deadlines, and I have, a potential attrition problem. I had really not pleasant conversation to have. But what I did, I said, okay, I have no idea how I'm going to tell him that. I was actually terrified. So I just say, you know what? I want to hear from you first. What is the most important things for you? And we had a discussion where I mostly asked him some questions and really kind of try to align with him on what was the most important. So we had a release that we had to, a date. We had a press release. We had a conference we needed to present. And then I talked about the challenges that I was having, and we tried to align of, okay, what are the most important things to do? And when I actually got to the point of telling him, hey, we cannot ship everything, we have problems, it was so easy. He actually said, yeah, no problem. Let's just do the must-haves. And I was amazed by how easy it was to have that discussion after I actually listened to him and made him feel, and again, I was authentic, I wasn't faking it. After I listened to him and he felt like I actually get it, that I actually understand what he needs from me, that I actually understand what is important for him, and I'm trying to work with him. Telling him the bad news and kind of reducing the scope was a no-brainer. It was so easy, and I was surprised. So next time when you need to influence someone, or you need maybe to give maybe unpleasant kind of news, think about the other person and how do you make them feel. Make them feel like you get them, like you actually understand them, like you understand where they're coming from, and the whole discussion will look differently. And I wanted to just leave you with 3 simple things you can do tomorrow. First is mapping your influence. Basically, who are the stakeholders? Who are the people that are important for you to form relationship with and to influence? And you'll be surprised, a lot of women that I coach, when I ask them that, they don't have a straight answer. So think about that. Think about how can you state your impact in a way that is authentic to you, to those stakeholders or to the people that are important to you, and practice strategic curiosity. Try to be curious. Try to think, okay, in my next meeting with a stakeholder or with my manager, can I ask them a question about, okay, what does impact mean to you right now? Or something that will care about them and what they care about right now. So I want to thank you all for listening to me. Hopefully that was entertaining enough so you didn't fall asleep. And I want to invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Limor. I think we've got time for one question.
Oh, do I need to do anything?
No, I think we might have time for one question if we can get the questions up, because I didn't bring my phone.
Do I need to do anything?
I'll flick them up in a sec. No, they won't. Do I have any? All right. There we go. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks to the AV guys. Well done. So we'll go with, have you found strategies that work for introverted leaders during high-stakes board or exec-level discussions?
Yeah, so, Rina, this is a very good question. First of all, I would say, and I said it already in my talk, you have to really be authentic and be you and find what works for you. For me, what worked for me is being myself, being calm, and trying to kind of share the impact, talk about the business impact, talk about the things that are important to the executive level. And, you don't have to say much, but you have to say the things that matters.
Cool. Well, thank you, Limor. Just a big round of applause.